Hello everybody, this is KC and welcome to episode 5 of my Let's Play Minecraft Pocket Edition series. Just come outside and noticed this spider trying to get in, so my canopy is working the way I would like for it to. I think I'll just take care of him right quick. And I don't see any others around, but it seems like at night, especially when I come outside, there's generally a spider or two in this area right outside my entrance. So I've been able to collect quite a few spider webs that way. Since the last episode, I've begun cleaning up this area. I'm using stone bricks here for the main room, and I also cleaned up this area here where I have my display cases. I used yellow wool there behind the display case, and there's actually a torch just above the top there that's bringing some additional light in. Makes things a bit easier to see. So I like the way that turned out. That looks good. One problem I do have though, if I venture too far away from this area, these monsters will despawn, and I don't know of any way to keep that from happening. I don't think there's a way to keep that from happening. That's happened to me twice so far, and it's not too hard to bring them back in, but I don't like having to do that, so I'm not sure what I'll end up doing. I'll probably leave this here for now. I do like it when you first come into this room, but again, there is a bit of a problem that if you travel too far away, they do despawn and you come back to empty display cases. I've also done a little bit of work here in my workroom on this side. I have grass now over this entire area, and I created me an infinite water source here so that I can always refill my buckets very easily. This is actually a 2x2 infinite water source, and maybe I'll just explain that if you're not familiar with it. Let me get a couple of buckets here. So with this being an infinite water source, I can fill as many buckets as I want. For example, if I do those 2 buckets, then you'll notice that the water flows for just a second and then fills back up again. So it's very handy if you're doing anything with water to create one of those. And maybe I'll explain a little bit more detail how to do that. So I'll start with a 2x2 configuration. Let's first empty our water buckets. So we'll just empty those back into the infinite pool. And to make a 2x2 infinite water source, you would start by digging out a 2x2 area. And then when you fill this, you're going to fill it in opposite corners. For example, if I place one water block there and another water block there, you see how it stops flowing. And then I can come back to any of those 4 squares to fill my buckets. So 2x2 is one configuration. A different configuration would be more what I would call an L shape. So if I were to create an area like that and then place water in that block and that block, that creates an infinite water source only in this block here. So for example, I could fill my bucket and then I could fill the other bucket. But if I were to try to get water from those original 2 blocks, then you see how that flows. That is not an infinite source water block. So to fix that, I would just refill that area, and then again, I can always fill my buckets from that corner block. So where this is helpful, or where you might use that, let's say that I want a an infinite water block here in this corner. I could dig that out and dig that out, and then place a water block under there, and again there. So I have this nice one block, or what appears to be a one block, infinite water source. It will continue to refill. Just fill that back in. Then the other type, at least that I'm aware of, is more in a line. So let's say we have 3 and we place one in the 2 corners. Then again, the middle block is infinite, but the outer blocks are not. So you can see the flowing water pattern there. And where you might use that type of infinite water source is, let's say that I want to do something like this. I'm going to have an infinite water source in just one visible block here. So I would fill up that, and then I would do the same thing on the opposite side. So now I have this one visible block again that acts as an infinite water source. So 3 different techniques, at least the 3 that I know of, that I use quite a bit, and I tend to use the 2x2 the most, which again is what I have over here. But all 3 of those configurations will work, and again, they can have their own purposes. For example, if you want one in the corner like that, you do the L-shaped one, if you will. Or again, you can have just the one that we just created that has one at least exposed water block, and it's recessed in the wall, so that can be handy as well. I have temporarily created this small stairway down into my farm room, and really what I was trying to accomplish here was just to get grass growing down to the bottom, and at some point I may have that grass spread out further, but I built that stairway for the grass to grow down into this room. Wheat farm is fully grown at this point. Other changes I've made, I put down these stone slabs as a walkway around the wheat farm, and I like the way that looks. That seems to be behaving the way I want it to, where you step up onto the wheat farm. Then I've also created a small cactus farm here, and this is not behaving exactly the way I thought it would. You can see here, for example, that this cactus has grown to 2 blocks tall, and that second block grew up against those wood planks. My understanding of the way it worked would be that as soon as that cactus grew to the second block tall, that second block would pop off because it was growing beside that block behind it there, the wood planks. That doesn't seem to be the way it's working, at least in this version of Pocket Edition, which is 0.7.6. But what does happen is that if that third block of cactus grows on top, then the top 2 blocks both pop off. So the third block at the top and the middle block would both pop off, leaving just the block there on the ground. And again, that's a bit different than the way I understood it to work, but it does seem to work that way. And I have been able to gather some cactus from this farm. You'll also notice I have some flowing water there. If the cactus falls off and lands in that water, it'll all be collected here at the central point, so I can simply walk into the room and pick that up from here. There are a couple of problems with this. One problem is not really specific to this configuration, but when a cactus block pops off, if it lands on another cactus block, it will destroy the piece that popped off. And there's really no way around that. There's nothing you can do to change that behavior. That's just the way it works. So there is a chance that when that block pops off, it will land on your base cactus block and be destroyed. The other thing that can happen, again, this is more of just the way I had to build it to have it be self-harvesting, is that when that third block pops off, it can land on those wood planks. So if you want to try to get in there and get it, you can. I typically don't do that. I'll just sacrifice that block and wait for the cactus to grow again. So the cactus room is working. It's working a little different than the way I thought it would work, but I was pleased that I was able to find a way to get it to work, again, in this version of Minecraft Pocket Edition. So the cactus room is rather small at this point, but I don't use cactus for a lot other than just creating the green dye. And with 8 cactus, that, at least for now, is providing me with enough to do what I need to do with it. So I may come back later and expand this room, make it larger, so that I can harvest more cactus. But at least at this point, I'll just leave that the way it is. Then also, just beside that, I created a small sugarcane farm. And you can see here it's fully grown. It will grow to 3 blocks tall. And it's very similar to the cactus room, although this one I do harvest by hand. So if I wanted to harvest this, for example, I could stand here and do that all the way to the back on this middle row. If the sugarcane falls into the water, then it will be swept to this central position where I can pick it up. But a lot of times it will fall here onto the dirt, so I'll just walk in here to pick that up. And then while I'm here, I will also just harvest the rest of it. And again, I'll have to hop over to that side to pick it up. And then I would do the same thing on the other side over here. Harvest all of that, and then hop over to that side to pick up what fell onto the dirt blocks. But you can see the sugarcane that does fall into the water collects there at that central point, so I could just hop down there and pick that up. So that room seems to be working as well. So in general, I like my little farm area here. I have enough wheat in that chest over there to keep me going for a while, enough to make quite a bit of bread, a lot of seeds, and it grows back very quickly, so I'm pleased with that. So the next thing I think I will work on in this room is a small tree farm, and I believe that I will make that over here somewhere and make a large room just behind this wall to have a small tree farm. So I will work on that and at least have it ready to be planted for the next episode. And I think at some point I'll probably come back and block off this stairway here. Again, I just did that so that I could have the grass growing down into this room. I'll probably leave that one block of grass so that that can spread around to where I need it at some point in the future. When I decide maybe how I'm going to do my tree farm, I may decide to have that with grass. But at this point I'm uncertain how I'm going to do that. So I think I'll end this episode here. This was just a quick tour of the work that I've done to this point. For the next episode, we'll do a little more building, or at least some planting of trees, and I look forward to that. Thanks for watching.